Raju, let me know once you are done, huh? राजू,
Yes, sir. Yes.
एक बार हो जाएगा तो बता देना.
Okay. Okay.
Done. Good evening, folks. This is Mayuresh Joshi from VivekMashrani, India. Can you guys hear me loud and clear in the first place? Just a thumb. All good is good enough. And can you see me and Vivek by both? So we're perfectly sure that audio and video are perfectly good enough before we start. So we don't want any interruptions.
Yeah. Quick check from my end also. Hope I am also audible, guys. Yes.
Yes, Vivek bhai, loud and clear.
Superb.
And you're looking in holiday cheer, so. Super. So guys, just 1 minute. There are a few more participants in the queue who are joining in. Good enough responses. I think I've got it. I think the audio and video is good enough for all of us to hear. Just in case you want it to be absolutely omission free, you can use your headphones, your speakers, or whatever you find comfortable, so that it would be a error free or an omission free session for you guys. Great. So we have just 1 more minute. Few more guys are joining in. So
no worries.
perfect. I think most guys are in. So let's start. So evening, folks. Mayuresh Joshi from VivekMashrani, India. We've got a very special guest at the other end with us. So you can see him on the screen. Vivek, by no formal introduction, though I will still give a formal introduction, but Vivek Bhai does not need any formal introduction. He's the director with Techno Funda Investing. He's done his MBA in capital markets. He's a CFA charter holder, 18 to 20 years of experience in the equity markets. He spent a long time in investment banking, almost 13 to 15 years, with very reputed organizations like HSBC, UBS, and Infosys, to say the least. He's also an author. So as good as he is in picking stocks and deriving all that he does through Techno Funda Investing, he's authored a book called You Can Compound. And as you were just chatting before this, one more is on the way. So welcome, Vivek Bhai. It's a pleasure to host you at this year-end webinar. I think a lot of investors, stroke traders would like to understand how you are viewing the markets right now and going forward as well. So thank you very much for making it on the Markets Today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here, Mayuresh Bhai. It's always a pleasure to connect on this platform.
Oh, brilliant. Just one request before we start, and I just want an affirmation from your side. Can we do this as a mix of English and Hindi? I mean, if all of you are comfortable, we can just have a mix of both English and Hindi, because there are a lot of audience which is also in tier 2, tier 3. जहाँ पे complete English अगर session रखते हैं तो ये होगा. So I think we'll keep a mix of both if all you guys are okay. Vivek bhai, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I can.
Perfect. So guys, assume that to be a yes. Sure. Perfect. Super. So Vivek bhai, let's start the session. I think we've got a lot of good responses already which have come in. एक गाना याद आ रहा था मुझे आज आफ्टर मार्केट क्लोज, ये कहाँ आ गए हम. तो ये दोनों गाना दोनों कॉन्टेक्स्ट में होता है, जब मार्केट ऑल टाइम लो पे भी होता है और जब मार्केट ऑल टाइम हाई पे भी होता है. So how are you viewing markets? ये कहाँ आ गए हैं हम? Will this sustain?
I think there are pockets, right? So कहाँ आगे है, that depends upon which way we are seeing, right? So if we are seeing mid cap, small cap या फिर large cap, उसके ऊपर बहुत depend करता है. So I think see large caps, as we all know, last 1 year it was like stand still. कुछ निफ्टी में भी खास हुआ नहीं था. Almost a year, almost 7-8% return. Only after 20,000 crossed, we saw some breather rally and the breakout happened. Base थोड़ा बंद गया था और फिर बाहर निकला. But apart from that, I think mid cap and small cap where the action has been, right? And being a trend follower, I would say कि जब तक trend चल रहा है तब तक उसको सामने से oppose नहीं करना चाहिए. So I feel still the trend looks like intact, although in pockets अगर stock specific देखे, काफी valuation देखे तो of course there are froth in pockets. SME में थोड़ा froth नजर आ रहा है. But overall, I think the trend is still there. So rather than prematurely calling it a top or something on even a small and mid cap, I would be on a cautious side कि जब तक market हमें signal दे रहा है, we should be on the right side of the market.
तो ये भाई कहावत है मार्केट में, भाव भगवान है। तो भाव तो तोड़फोड़ बढ़ गया है, वेदर इट्स लार्ज कैप इतने नहीं, बट मिड कैप्स एज यू राइटली पॉइंटेड आउट। और जैसे आपने राइटफुली कहा कि आई थिंक मार्केट्स मोमेंटम में है, तो आर देयर एनी प्रोसेसेस दैट यू फॉलो कि आज अगर मार्केट्स मोमेंटम में है, स्टॉक्स आर मेकिंग अ 3x 4x 5x रिटर्न, सो इज देयर एनी डेफिनेशन ऑन वेयर यू आर पुटिंग इन एन एल्गो और समथिंग फ्रॉम योर साइड कि ये मैं 2-3 चीज देखूंगा जहां पे मुझे वार्निंग साइंस आएंगे? तो एवरीथिंग गुड सो फार, any
Right.
red flags that you'll probably see in broader markets where caution is warranted?
Right. So basically, it's as usual what we have been practicing and learning also from William O'Neill, right? One, we basically check relative strength. अगर market ऊपर जा रहा है and the strength is missing in any stock, that is first red flag. कि भाई यहाँ पे कोई गड़बड़ है, अगर पूरा बारात आगे जा रहा है और ये एक स्टॉक पीछे जा रहा है, that is one thing. Second, I track couple of exit indicators, right? So I use likes of parabolic SAR, V stops to trail my exits in certain stocks, and that too also mostly in weekly, because daily it is so much of volatility these days, so mostly on the weekly side I track it. And apart from that, I want also sector tailwinds to be in favor. Agar sector headwinds are in any industry, then I would probably be very cautious in those pockets. So these are like broadly three things which I follow, and I'm more like a trend follower rather than more of a predictor, right? So that ways I let things go, even though I might know that, okay, my valuations are slightly going on the higher side. I tighten my exit criteria, but I don't prematurely exit. And that has helped me multiple times in the past. कि जो लगता है कि यार ये बहुत महंगा हो गया, वहां से भी 3x 4x हो जाता है, and we can ride that.
Oh, absolutely. So ride your winners, as you
Ride your winners.
rightly pointed out, and which you have time and again mentioned in your tweets, in your philosophy, in your logic, and in your book as well. You just mentioned about the sector headwinds. Now, for investors who are probably doing jobs who are not fully aligned or inclined in terms of giving that much charge to equity markets, and they do some introspection in terms of their weekly learning or reading, what 2-3 things should they probably just imbibe on the aspect that you said for a sector? यानी एक सेक्टर में क्या 2-3 चीजें ऐसी देखनी चाहिए? You can take an example if you want, say IT or real estate or whatever problems.
Right. So I'll actually practically show that so that even our users who are using market with, and also seeing the market on a frequent basis, they can benefit from it. So first thing, what I check, if we go out here, तो ये हमारा जो tool है, it is like very powerful tool where we have all the insights in one screen. So basically what I do generally is I straight away generally go to markets with stock screen. So first thing जो हमने बात की थी, things where there is strength, right? So there is a beautiful screen which is there, blue dot list screen, and William O'Neill and Mark Minervini, all these guys have been using this since quite a while. So basically I try to go into this list and I just sort it by dates. Like this is already sorted that 26 December में आज कौन कौन से stock आया. Now assume that we are doing a week weekend study, right? Rather than weekdays. And that is what I also believe in. If you are working, if you are doing job, if you are doing business, you don't need to sit in front of screen every single day and keep refreshing the market, because we want to earn active income and then put it into market to compound it. We don't want to disturb that active income flow. So this is where, basically the screening criteria we follow in terms of screening couple of charts and stocks over here. And then, we look for these blue dots. So basically blue dot screen mein ye blue dot default aa jayenge. And along with it, we want to see a base completion, right? So wherever the base, like this rounding base has been completed, and there is this kind of pivot entry which is falling in place. That is one way of doing it. Another way of looking at this is from the same Market Smith screen, where we have the near pivot stocks which are forming the base, and again they are just nearer to the pivot and they are probably about to break out. So these are two very powerful screens which one should look for, and you can actually look into a weekly time frame, which is even more powerful than daily, because the kind of noise gets trimmed. Along with this, if we want to see the sector कि भाई कौन से sector ऐसे है जिसमें strength है, there is a very powerful industry group rank which all the retail investors can use here. I think it's just getting loaded. So here you basically get which all industry there are good stocks. Like recently all the metal stocks are flying, so you can see Hindustan Copper and MOIL and Sandur Manganese and NMDC and all those stocks over here. So we kind of get a clue कि ये sector बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है, and then within that sector which stocks are strong, and within those stocks which stocks are breaking out or forming a pivot. अनदर एक बहुत ही मजेदार जो हमारा बेस ब्रेकआउट का हम लोग कॉन्सेप्ट करते हैं. आई विल जस्ट शो वन ऑफ द एग्जांपल व्हिच आई फॉलोड, which is in terms of last 6 months. अगर आप देखें IT and pharma, right? So IT and pharma, if we see on a daily basis as well as weekly basis, it has kind of started to form base somewhere in the middle of July, August, and that base has been like almost getting completed in the IT space. Same way in the CNX pharma space. Okay. Now, a lot of us in our community also, and those who are practicing Technofunda, we have been just following this one pattern कि जहाँ पे भी base बन रहा है and the base is 60% complete, जो cup है वो हमारा 60% complete है, and then it is just completing that cup. And if we take n number of stocks in the sector, just with this pattern, we can actually identify and ride it. Let me give you some examples. And guys,
Sure.
these are not stock recommendation. Just treat it like a case study, because we might be holding some position in some of these. So you can see like Zensar Tech, same base position going up. Same way Aurobindo Pharma, same base position and going up. Right, same way we had HCL Tech, which is very recent example in the large cap, same process. Then if we see something like Birla Soft, again, same base formation and base completion. Same way if we see Scient, same way base completion and breakout. And there are tons and tons of such stocks which we can, find it out like this. So the idea is rather than, getting too complicated, like say Piramal Pharma, it is just, trying to form that base. It is just in the middle. Then we have something like one more, I think we had, of course, CDSL kind of tech place, again, similar base formation and broken out. So the point is, even if आप लोग वीकली में थोड़ा टाइम 2-3 घंटे देते हैं, एंड इफ यू जस्ट बॉइल डाउन इनटू 2-3 सेक्टर्स कि भाई आईटी मुझे स्ट्रांग लग रहा है, फार्मा मुझे स्ट्रांग लग रहा है, एंड देन इफ वी जस्ट फोकस ऑन अ वीकली चार्ट्स एंड सेम बेस, या तो आप अर्ली थोड़ा बेस आइडेंटिफाई करिए या तो बेस ब्रेकआउट पे आप प्ले करिए. बोथ यू कैन एक्चुअली in a very peaceful way, you can make a lot of money in that.
Wow, those were great insights, Vivek. I'll just repeat what you just said. So one is obviously the industry classification, where you will get the top sectors, as you are saying, which are performing or expected to perform well. Then you probably go within that and which stocks are breaking out. And as a confirmation, you look at the blue dot list and the never peered stocks, just as
correct.
And within the base formation, if you can repeat to our users, So when you say early in the base, you can take an entry. So when you divide the charts into two parts, say left and right side of the base, so
Yeah.
60%, if you can just repeat that once again, so that
Yeah,
users
sure.
can benefit from.
Sure. Basically, कोई भी base बनता है, like say for example, any cup and handle pattern is forming, right? So it will form a cup like this, and then probably there will be handle, and then it will break out. या फिर
Right.
काफी बार यहीं से this part itself breaks out, right? So there are two generally cases we have seen, or sometimes it forms a VCP kind of structure, like there are smaller base after base, and then it breaks out. So the point is, before it breaks out, right? You get a clue. Like at this point, your cup is 60% done. Okay, this is
Yeah.
where your cup is 60% done. So this is like a too early base entry, what we can say, like a very low base entry. This is like a mid base entry. And this is like almost just pre-breakout entry. And then a lot of people actually play breakouts, which happens just after this. So normally in market, what you see is people playing this breakout, but you can actually play pre-breakout, you can play mid base positions, and you can pay low base positions also. Now the thing is कि यहाँ पे काफी लोग फंसे होते हैं, right? So some
Yeah.
people would have bought here, some would have bought here, some would have bought here. तो normally जो टेम्परामेंट या माइंडसेट होता है वो ये होता है कि चलो मेरा अभी लॉस हो रहा है, यहाँ पे उनका बहुत बड़ा लॉस हो रहा है, मेरा भाव पे आ जाएगा तो मैं बेच दूंगा, राइट? तो मेरा ब्रेक
Correct.
इवन हो जाएगा तो आई विल सेल. So these positions are slightly risky because you will see that selling pressure, because लोग दुखी है, वो फंसे हुए लॉस में है, तो वो लोग बेचेंगे. The blue sky zone or the new high zone is much safer because everybody is happy and everybody is making money. So the point is, this we should play only if there is a strong sector tailwind या टर्न अराउंड हो रहा है. जैसे आईटी का सेक्टर टर्न अराउंड हो रहा था, फार्मा का हो रहा था. अभी ये सेम चीज आपको केमिकल्स में दिखेगी, सेम
Yes.
चीज आपको डायग्नोस्टिक स्पेस में दिखेगी, विच इज लाइक वेरी अर्ली स्पेस. अगर आप थायरोकेयर ओपन करोगे या लोग लालपत लैब ओपन करोगे या मेट्रोपोलिस ओपन करोगे, आपको एग्जैक्टली यहाँ पे ये पोजीशन मिलेगी, राइट? सो दैट इज हाउ दिस इज स्लाइटली हाई रिस्क. सो व्हाट नीड्स टू बी डन इज कि आपकी पोजीशन साइज यहाँ पे कम रखो, एंड जैसे जैसे आपका कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ता जाता है एंड द प्राइस मूव्स इन योर फेवर, यू काइंड ऑफ एवरेज अप your position, and finally on breakout you top up even more accelerated way. तो आप वहां पे ज्यादा टॉप अप कर सकते हो. So what I do is I take like 2 to 3% of my portfolio position during this phase, और ये breakout confirmation होने के बाद 2 to 3%, around like 5% position I want to top up in a one particular stock. So that is how I go about it, and this is how you can play these base patterns, and this works in a nice way even on the indexes. तो आप
Okay.
इंडेक्स पे भी ये कर सकते हो. तो नॉट जस्ट सिंगल स्टॉक स्पेसिफिक इंडेक्स, ऑल्सो इट परफेक्टली वर्क्स फाइन.
परफेक्ट. आई थिंक दिस वाज वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव. और इनफैक्ट जो आपको मैं अगला सवाल पूछने वाला था, पोजीशन साइजिंग था, आई थिंक यू आंसर्ड दैट इन द आंसर इटसेल्फ. दो चीजें अभी आई थिंक जब हम सेक्टर्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट हेडविंड टेलविंड्स फॉर अ पर्टिकुलर सेक्टर, now most sectors have done well. As you pointed out, some sectors like IT and pharma have started breaking out. Or folks, if you're tuning in right now, I think Vivek Bhai has given a hint on two sectors which obviously are looking very attractive to him. He's clearly mentioned diagnostics and somewhere within the chemical space. So observe these two sectors and certain stocks. He also mentioned the stock name where you can have your learnings done in terms of observation that he sees. So Vivek Bhai, the sectors which have done phenomenally well, right? And we've done studies in the past as well. जो sectors run करते हैं अगले bull market के लिए शायद diverse sectors होते हैं. Maybe there are different sectors which will come through. Now, since most sectors have done well, a lot of laggards have also started breaking out. What is your thought? I mean, thought process, crystal ball gazing जब हम 24 में देख रहे हैं, what are you seeing in terms of which sectors within the larger sphere? You just briefly mentioned, I think, diagnostics and chemicals. So is that conviction still going on in these two sectors? Yeah, another two sub-sectors within sectors can do well. What is your thought in terms of 24?
राइट. सो आई वुड से ये दो सेक्टर्स थोड़े अर्ली स्टेज में. इट इज नॉट लाइक
Okay.
वेरी एज आई सेड, इट इज वेरी अर्ली स्टेज टू से वेदर दे आर गोइंग टू कंप्लीट द बेस, एंड प्रॉब्ली दीज वेर आल्सो लगार्ड सेक्टर्स. मतलब केमिकल्स में हेडविंड्स इतने थे,
Correct.
चाइना के प्राइसिंग इश्यूज थे, एंड इवन डायग्नोस्टिक यू हैड लॉट ऑफ दीज कॉम्पिटिशंस, और थायरोकेयर में भी पूरा प्रमोटर
Correct.
चेंज था एंड ऑल द स्ट्रेटजीज चेंज. So these are very early sectors to watch, but my broad thought process is on two lines. One is India mein election aa raha hai, and most of the times when we have elections going, nearer, we have seen a lot of spending on the infrastructure side. And this I've been talking, like मेरे जितने भी न्यूज चैनल में वीडियोस है, एक साल से मैं यही कर रहा हूँ, because if something is working, there is no need to change. So infra, I feel, it's still, has potential at least until election. That is what I feel.
Okay.
And a lot of proxy plays of infra, right? And even construction has picked up. So real estate can be a dark horse. It has already, a lot of stocks have started hitting new highs. And some of the proxy plays of infra, because as a core infra mein jo stocks listed hai, they are not very clean, and balance sheet are not very good, or overall even return ratios are not good. But some of the proxy plays can do really well. I was just reading some of the data points in one of the research report, like construction equipment companies have grown like 26% in terms of revenue, as a subsector. तो अगर कोई सेक्टर टॉप लाइन पे 26% ग्रो कर सकता है, देन बॉटम लाइन कैसा होगा, राइट? सो that is how we need to think about. And another thing is on which is also emerging is, of course, metal side, because the interest rates are going down. So that entire consumption of the commodities might also pick up. That is historically what we have seen. तो ये दो सेक्टर वी कैन कीप इट इन आई, और बहुत नियर ट्रिगर है, मतलब इतना टाइम नहीं हुआ इंटरेस्ट रेट नीचे जाते हुए, सो स्टिल इट कैन प्ले आउट फर्दर आल्सो.
Perfect. So now, since we are talking about 24, and since you have mentioned real estate, infra में वो जो आप construction equipment as a sub part of the theme कह रहे हैं, and two early stage sectors, diagnostics and chemicals. So now, if you are pegging our eye lenses on these four sectors, a lot of people feel कि real estate में जो move है, I think a lot of stocks have already moved. So are fundamentals fully priced in? अगर fundamentals पूरे priced in है, तो काफी लोगों का market में ये मानना होता है कि शायद price action उतनी ना हो. Then it probably just goes into a price and time consolidation. So what is your view here? Do you think real estate sector still has some way to go? And just a sub question to that, what about ancillary players, real estate के? Plywood, ceramic players, उसमें कोई interest या anything where you find an interesting patterns and development?
Yeah, so basically, of course, the moves has been very sharp. मतलब last 6 महीने में lot of stocks have even doubled in this space. But if we think about real estate sector, right, so it is a long cycle play. मतलब हमने देखा 2011-12 के बाद pretty much it has not done anything in terms of ground level growth also, or even price भी इतने बड़े नहीं थे. So after 10 years, we are seeing that uptick. And if this long cycle is like really picking up and uptrend continues, probably we will see a much bigger rally. Having said that, मतलब real estate में there are not many players to play directly. Like गिने चुने 5-6 companies are which we can play on the listed space. So as you rightly said, the proxy plays are even better. And again, the dynamics of real estate is similar to infra. ROCs इतने मिलते नहीं है, a lot of regulatory issues are there, compliance is very high. So what I would probably bet is something like laminate, something like piping sector, something like proxy plays in terms of wiring sector. So these players have been doing well. In fact, जब रियल एस्टेट चल भी नहीं रहा था तो ये प्लेयर्स चल रहे थे, बिकॉज अगर आप नया बाय नहीं करेंगे तो एटलीस्ट घर तो बेटर करेंगे, राइट? तो जो पहले जो वेव आई थी मारुति की वेव के, सब लोग कार एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स वेर गेटिंग अपग्रेडेड, नाउ इट इज टाइम फॉर होम इम्प्रूवमेंट साइकिल टू पिक अप. तो आप आसपास भी देखेंगे आपके रिश्तेदार, काफी सारे लोग, you will see a lot of improvement in the lifestyle and how people live in their house. So I think this is like a very good secular, slightly safer way to play the real estate basket.
Correct. नहीं यार, absolutely right, Vivek. I think stocks like Polycab, Astral, यानी जो आप wires की cables की बात कर रहे हैं, या piping में Astral की बात कर रहे हैं, phenomenal rate of return. So to that extent, completely buy your point on where you're putting and getting that from. दूसरी चीज, जब आप इंफ्रा की बात करते हैं, आई थिंक देयर इज, इफ आई प्ले द डेविल्स एडवोकेट हियर, जनरल इलेक्शंस मई जून में है, ऑर्डर्स विल नॉट स्टार्ट कमिंग इन, यानी जैन से सब ठप हो जाएगा in terms of orders. Does that really impact how markets will view these companies, or is this, as you said, like a real estate sector that proxies a long term kind of a thing?
That again, I would say depends upon the election outcome. If we have seen what the government has been doing last 5-10 years, there is a major push across infra. मतलब आप रेलवे देखो या फिर रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर देखो या फिर इवन मरीन रिलेटेड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ग्रोथ देखिए. So I think there has been massive, push on a very big scale. Even what they are talking about, if they really execute, कि भाई रेलवेज में कभी वेटिंग ही नहीं होगा, मतलब वो 50 साल में हमने कभी नहीं देखा, राइट? सो इफ दैट काइंड ऑफ ऑर्डर्स कम इन, मतलब 10 साल में भी आते तो इट्स अ ह्यूज अपॉर्चुनिटी साइज. इट इज मोर लाइक अ वेट एंड वॉच की वापस गवर्नमेंट आती है, सेम गवर्नमेंट आती है, एंड हाउ दे आर डूइंग. ऑफ कोर्स आई एम बुलिश ऑन बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट, लेट्स सी हाउ इट गोस.
Yes.
But their vision and direction, what they've done is on that side. So let's see how it goes. And again, defense also, I would say more like a infra play only. Like even defense, there are a lot of things happening, and some of the things they've done is like indigenization जो है वो, मतलब it's very irreversible play. एक बार वो हो गया तो वापस difficult है reverse होना. So let's see.
Oh, no, absolutely. So railway stocks are moving like rockets, and defense stocks are moving like satellite objects. यानी वो outer sphere, stratosphere वैसे जा रहे
एंड
हैं.
आपको याद हो अगर तो लास्ट टाइम हमने लास्ट ईयर जब प्रोग्राम किया था तब ये दोनों सेक्टर हमने डिस्कस किए थे.
Yes, I was about to say that folks, if you're not, I mean, if you had not logged in last year, Vivek Bhai had mentioned these two sectors to watch out for. So, what sectors he is pointing out for 24? Please keep them on your radar. Write it down if you have not, because next year when we speak on the same forum, I'm pretty sure these sectors would have outperformed. But just a follow-up question on that same topic, Vivek Bhai, on railways and defense. ये स्टॉक्स ऐसे भाग रहे हैं जैसे देयर इज नो टुमारो, राइट? रेलवेज हो, डिफेंस हो, पीएसयूज हो. व्हाट इज द रिस्क दैट यू प्रोबेबली सी? भाग तो रहे, ऑर्डर बुक्स हैं, एग्जीक्यूशन चल रही है. व्हाट इज द रिस्क दैट विल गेट दी स्टॉक्स डाउन? दैट इज वन. और दूसरा, द गाइज और फोक्स वर नॉट एबल टू एंटर, कि शायद थोड़ा करेक्शन आएगा तो एंटर करूंगा, वो करेक्शन कभी आता ही नहीं है. तो ये सिचुएशन में क्या करना चाहिए?
Right. So first part, I think execution risk is the biggest risk. Generally, हमने देखा है पहले भी जब 2008 में power sector जब boom था, and super critical boilers and everything, right from Adani Power, Reliance Power, and all the power stocks are going up. And then the execution was a problem, and we saw that beating around at that point of time also. Same way, काफी इनको मिला था, मतलब हमारे जो रिन्यूएबल स्पेस में है, विंड एनर्जी रिलेटेड कंपनीज लाइक्स ऑफ लोन एंड ऑल. अगेन वी सॉ द सेम थिंग, मतलब ऑर्डर बुक की कमी नहीं थी, एग्जीक्यूशन वाज अ प्रॉब्लम, एंड मेंटेनिंग दैट मार्जिन वाज अ प्रॉब्लम. सो आई थिंक दैट सेम थिंग कैन हैपन हियर. इमेजिन अ प्लेयर जिसको बड़ा ऑर्डर मिला है, देयर आर कॉस्ट एस्केलेशन क्लॉजेस, बट स्टिल अगर कमोडिटी प्राइसेस बहुत स्पाइक होती है, एग्जीक्यूशन बहुत डिले हो जाता है, एंड all those penalties and all the repercussions come in, so it's very difficult. Another big challenge is whether government will be able to fund it or not, right? मतलब अभी तो स्ट्रेच कर रहे हैं बैलेंस शीट, जीएसटी का रेवेन्यू आ रहा है, काफी सारा डेट उठा रहे हैं, काफी सारे बॉन्ड्स इश्यू हो रहे हैं. बट व्हाट इफ दैट ड्राइज अप, एंड व्हाट इफ दैट पेमेंट कलेक्शन इटसेल्फ इज अ प्रॉब्लम? जैसे हमने देखा था, एक कंपनी है तेजस नेटवर्क्स, जिसने बहुत बड़ा ऑर्डर लिया था 5G नेटवर्क में बीएसएनएल से. बीएसएनएल से पैसा नहीं मिला, पूरा कंपनी वेंट डाउन द ड्रेन, राइट? सो जस्ट एन एग्जांपल दैट दिस कैन आल्सो हैपन, एंड दीज आर रियल रिस्क. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि इंडिया में कभी हुआ नहीं है, इट कैन हैपन अगेन आल्सो. So that we need to stay cautious. And of course, I see there is now some bit of froth because सब चल रहा है तो सब लोग वहीं पे पैसे लगा रहे हैं. तो ऑफ कोर्स फ्रॉम द ट्रेंड फॉलोअर पर्सपेक्टिव इट इज फाइन बिकॉज वी हैव अ डिफाइंड एग्जिट. बट जो सिर्फ फंडामेंटल सोच के चल रहे हैं उनके लिए इट माइट बी अ डेंजरस प्रेसिडेंट. Another thing in terms of what investors should do, whether they should jump the bandwagon or wait or not, I'm very हार्ड प्रोवोकेंट ऑफ कि जब तक आपका लेवल्स नहीं आता, जब तक आपको पिवट एंट्री नहीं मिलती, जब तक आपका रिस्क डिफाइन नहीं है, तब तक फोमो में एंटर नहीं करना चाहिए. सो फोमो इज लाइक बिगेस्ट एनिमी ऑफ अ सिस्टमेटिक इन्वेस्टर. सो इफ यू आर रियली फोकस्ड ऑन रिस्क मैनेजमेंट, probably you can wait and see if you get right levels, and even if you are entering, have a defined exit so that if you give back, there is a very small residual risk which you are giving inside the market. Baki FOMO में jump करने का there is no point.
Absolutely well said, Vivek bhai. So, folks, if you are listening in, I think the more important part what Vivek bhai said is don't get lured कि stock बहुत चल चुके हैं. I have probably missed the rally. So FOMO is nothing but feeling of missed out. कि शायद मैंने रैली कंप्लीटली मिस कर दी है. मार्केट्स हमेशा मौका देता है. Markets will give you those entry points at some point of time. You have to have the patience. मैं हमेशा मानता हूँ विवेक भाई कि market is an effective platform which transfers wealth from the inefficient or the impatient to the patient. So
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
have to have your patience in the markets. And what he rightly pointed out, risk management. तो आप अगर विवेक भाई की बातें अगर ध्यान से सुनते हैं, if you are hearing very very carefully, he stresses on certain aspects very very carefully. So risk management is something that he is stressing very very frequently, especially for stocks which have come up or have got extended in all these spaces, mind you, power, defense and PSU as a pack. So define your entry point. और अगर आपने define कर लिया है तो you have to maintain that stop loss. अगर लग गया है तो you have to exit. Don't wait कि maybe my prices will come out. So I think that's a very important learning from what Vivek Bhai has pointed out. Vivek Bhai, you did not touch upon autos or auto ancillary, and we've seen a humongous run in that. यानी आज भी Hero Moto, Bajaj, TVS were running left, right, center. It's only the large caps which have not performed. And when I hear a lot of these perennial experts who have been in the market for 30, 40 years, everybody's consensus view abhi hai ki large caps will be the mantra for 2024. So what's your take? Because your take is also that broader markets are probably looking overheated. तो अगर लार्ज कैप्स में कुछ पोजीशनिंग सेक्टर में बनानी है, सो डज ऑटोज सीम टू बी अ गुड सेक्टर व्हिच हैज अंडरपरफॉर्म्ड एटलीस्ट फ्रॉम अ लार्ज कैप पर्सपेक्टिव.
Yeah, so I think that is true and problem ये है कि सब कुछ आजकल नया हाई मार रहा है, राइट? तो अभी कितने सेक्टर पकड़े, as you rightly said initially, even जो भी लगार्ड्स है वो भी अभी परफॉर्म करने लगे, राइट? तो broadly everything is I think moving, so very difficult to pinpoint where is extreme strength, but yes, I think overall broadly large cap का भी टाइम आएगा. मतलब the valuations have remained saner and काफी सारे जो good growing stocks है वो अभी तक नहीं मूव हुए हैं, and that is like we have seen in 2018 also. जब एकदम बुचरिंग होती है मिड कैप एंड स्मॉल कैप में, फिर सब लोग कॉफी कैन वाले स्टॉक कंपाउंडर स्टॉक में आ जाते हैं, राइट? तो दैट टाइम विल आल्सो कम, मयूरेश भाई. सो वी हैव सीन दैट टाइम एंड अगेन. जब वो फ्रॉथ निकलता है तो पीपल लुक फॉर सेफ्टी, and growing stocks in large cap should be focused on. I think काफी large cap में भी if we see Nifty 50 stocks, there are some cyclical stocks, some stocks which are not a good growing stock. But as an investor, अगर आपको properly compound करना है, we should focus on a good growth kind of stock, which are reasonable in terms of valuation, and जहाँ पे base बन रहा है, new 52-week highs are getting formed, that is the place to hunt for.
Perfect. Makes logical sense. So I think you just wait out for those base formations to play out और large caps का time आएगा. ये विवेक भाई बोल रहे हैं.
थोड़े stocks में already बनने लगा है actually large cap
Correct.
में. So we are seeing that already happening.
Correct. So you want to just name a few जहाँ पे बन रहा है, just as a, or you want to show the users?
मतलब we can discuss few charts again, guys. Not a recommendation. We might have
So again,
we might have
विवेक
recommend.
भाई जो बोल रहे हैं, it's not a buy and sell, guys. So don't go on social platform and say that विवेक भाई ने ये कहा था buy या वो sell. वैसे नहीं है. This is something which he feels can be looked at constructively. So clear disclaimer from Vivek bhai's side on this one.
Yeah. So if you can see like say some of the good large cap stocks like say Titan, right? तो इसने पूरा VCP kind of structure बना के it broke out very early in May. Then there was a base on base formation for a tightening हुआ था, and after that tightening again it is starting to form a new high. So there are a lot of these kind of stocks. Then of course we talked about Polycab. It's almost like a large cap, although we like to classify them in mid cap, but these are like very very giant companies. So you can see like again there was a base formation, broke out again after tightening, it is moving into that zone. Again यहाँ पे थोड़ा news था, IT raids and all that, but if you are really long term investor and you studied the company, you can build conviction on that. Then again slightly mid cap kind of company, but almost like a large cap. You have KEI kind of companies which are like into very good compounding journey. Apart from that, Reliance and all those kind of stocks are still early phase. So अगर जो classic अपने large cap है उनको देखे, so they might have still some time to break out. So these are just trying to be into that consolidation phase. And let's see if they come out of it. Even if you see HDFC and likes of Kotak has been into long consolidation. Abhi, they are just coming around 52-week highs zone, and hopefully they will, break out from here and continue their journey. So we can keep eye on all these classic names, but
Correct.
इसमें थोड़ा position sizing आपको धीरे करना पड़ेगा. Otherwise, you never know. It can again go back into the basing journey and consolidate bit more. But अभी के लिए these are looking good. One of the holding which I have, which I track very regularly, is Chola. This has again like been a very good compounding in the banking space. And after a bit of consolidation for like few months, it is again coming back to a newer highs zone. So yeah, these are some of the stocks, but if you look hard enough, I think बहुत सारे निकलेंगे ऐसे stock, and 52-week high तो काफी सारे stocks बनाने लगे. Only thing is, if it is a like a good clear base, they might give you entry opportunity. Again, in terms of position sizing, I prefer taking a tranche or a tracking position initially. अगर मेरे favor में work करता है, only then I average up. So I don't like put 5% in HDFC or Titan or Reliance, even though it is completing the base, because then only we can make exposure in an incremental way, basically.
Perfect. So I think it's pyramiding up, having your position
Pyramiding up.
sizes increase as the price moves in your favor. How do you move your stop loss in that case, Vivek? I think some new investors might also might be wanting to learn or understand on that aspect.
Yeah. So for satellite position, which is more like in terms of swing or positional trades, what I do is my first tranche generally is a 1% tranche, 1% of my portfolio. And my trailing exit is less than 10%. Same again, William O'Neill school of thought, nothing too different. And when I add my second tranche, say for example, I got it at 100, and when a 90 rupees agar mera trailing stop loss rakha hai, so 10 rupees is my residual risk. So when I take a second tranche, I trail my exit in a such a way that my residual risk is still 10 rupees. So basically, I keep my residual risk constant and I widen my exposure in that position. And as soon as I reach third position, basically I take it to a certain extent so that my residual risk is zero. So if my stop loss triggers at that point, I'm in at least a break-even zone. I don't lose money in that case. So that is how the structuring is done. And after third tranche, broadly, it is like I have developed a indicator combining few of the wider indicators. Then I follow this indicator, which I call Shaktiman. This is a combination of V stop, parabolic SAR, relative strength, and RSI. So this is my favorite indicator, which I keep using it. And until it triggers red after third tranche, I keep riding it. Like say, for example, I give you example of couple of trades, which some of them I'm holding already also right now. Like say BSE, the same basing pattern which I talked about, I just did the same in BSE. I'm holding it currently also. This is where, the entry was. And then one way, there was no exit, which was triggered. So fair, I keep it peaceful because now my risk is mitigated, right? After third tranche, my residual risk is negative. And then, I let it run. And it has been case with so many others. Like I still have the Birla Soft also, which is almost similar zone, right? So same, you basically can buy here and then, it keeps riding like this. So this is how I've kept it simple. Zyada karna nahi. Weekly chart is zyada karo. Once in a week, we see if it triggers, it triggers. Otherwise, keep riding it. That's it.
Wow, makes perfect sense. And in fact, there was one question in the chat on the Shaktiman indicator as well, which you have very beautifully explained, Vivek Bhai. Now coming to banking and financial services, because this is one of the largest sectors weightage-wise, which can have a huge impact on how the Nifty swings largely. What is your view for FY24 for the sector as a whole? Is it more, again, skewed towards large caps, or is it more the broader themes? And is it those broader themes within the financial space? So are you looking at certain NBFCs as a pocket or gold financing companies, or what is your position for 24?
Yeah, so broadly, I feel, see, as far as the fund flows will continue, right? The mutual funds into large cap will continue. And if there is some bit of, froth removal in mid cap and small cap, तो काफी सारा पैसा large cap में जाएगा. Even the SIP money will go there. And that will naturally lift the large caps inside the Nifty basket. So that is in terms of demand supply, how it will work out. Broadly, otherwise, in terms of growth, I don't expect too high a growth. I expect around 15% kind of average growth in the large cap space in the banking sector. And I am positioned more from the NBFC perspective. So my portfolio, I just have Bajaj Finserv and Cholamandalam. That's it. So I'm not playing any gold financing companies. Just two companies I have currently in my portfolio.
Great. And about banks in general, Vivek bhai, large
Yeah,
caps, small
banks,
caps?
I think large cap can still do well because it has not performed and it has
Yeah.
gone into time correction. Almost आप देखोगे कोटक 4-5 साल से कुछ भी नहीं किया, HDFC 4 साल से कुछ नहीं किया. तो I think now it is long due, time correction हो गया, earnings have catch up the time correction and probably it can give some 15-20% kind of compounding from here on.
And for stocks like these, and you're absolutely right, ICICI बैंक का जो भाव लास्ट ईयर था वो वैसे ही है, कोटक अंडर परफॉर्म कर रहा है. Do you wait for a proper breakout, Vivek bhai, or do you take a pre-entry here?
आई थिंक इसमें तो इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग ब्रेकआउट आता नहीं है इतने बड़े लार्ज कैप में.
Correct.
ब्रेकआउट मजा आता है स्मॉल एंड मिड कैप में. तो मेरा स्पेस वही रहता है क्योंकि वहां पे जो मूव्स आते हैं इट्स रेयर टू फाइंड इन द लार्ज कैप स्पेस.
True. True.
बट आई थिंक आईसीआईसी बैंक रिलेटिवली इन टर्म्स ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ इज मच बेटर देन एचडीएफसी एंड कोटक इन माय व्यू. मतलब आई एम
Fair
मोर
enough.
बुलिश ऑन आईसीआईसी देन अदर्स.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I think we've discussed crystal gazing into 24 sectors. How do you look at sector rotation? And now let me come to the second part of our discussion, where we can also talk about other asset classes. Now, Vivek Bhai tracks a lot of asset classes within the market also. So he knows ins and outs about what other asset classes are also doing. For an investor who is not that much into risk taking, Vivek bhai, I mean, I'll break this question into two parts. One, who is has a risk reward which is pretty high. अगर आप उनको बोलना है कि what kind of positioning will you do from an asset class perspective? So what is your best asset class that you feel, followed by which two other asset classes? And therefore, for a high risk taker, what can be the appropriate asset mix? And for a low risk taker, what should be the appropriate mix from an FY24 perspective? Because you're probably looking into the new.
Got it. So basically ये बहुत ही अच्छा बात बताया आपने. So see, as an investor, we need to first know who are we as an investor, right? What is our risk appetite? तो जिनका conservative risk appetite है, and if we go all in the market, and there is always going to be correction, that is the nature of the stock market, right? And if we just prematurely exit our position या फिर बहुत ही ज्यादा घबरा के हमने कुछ अच्छे stocks भी बेच दिया, then it is not a right way to go about it. So for somebody first who is a very conservative investor, right? There is a thumb rule which is like 100 minus age, right? So if you are say 40 years old, you can have an optimal equity allocation of say 60%. You can go slightly lower than that thumb rule. So अगर 60% आपका 100 minus age आ रहा है, you go 50% or even 40-45%. The second layer which you can build is fixed income layer. Fixed income can be around like 20-25%. And if you are a low tax bracket person, you can actually have FD. पहले bonds में थोड़ा arbitrage था, but after the budget last year, there is no arbitrage left in terms of long-term capital gains in terms of bonds or even the indexation benefit which we used to get, right? So now everything is basically short-term gain based on your tax bracket. So interest rate already, we have seen stabilized. So FD is a good option for you guys. And you can even do mix of bonds and FD, but from tax perspective, it will not make much difference. So around 20% is something where you should have that fixed income bracket. And if you have your own house, that should not be regarded as real estate. You can have some 10% exposure to real estate also, and around 5 to 10% into gold. So that is how broadly you can do asset allocation. If you are a medium kind of person, you can do straight away 100 minus age, and that could be your optimum, equity allocation. And again, whatever I'm saying is like broad base. You need to actually sit with your advisor and be very specific and get your allocation done. But this is like a broadly what we think about. And your fixed income can be around like same 15%, around 15% can be your real estate, and remaining can be in your gold. If you're very aggressive, you can take it higher, like how we discussed for low. For high, you can increase it by 10 to 20%. So you can take equity exposure slightly higher. And also your fixed income, you can keep it slightly lower and expose more yourself to say alternative asset class. Also, if you want to take some position into say 5%, you want to put it into startups or emerging equities, you can even go there. And around 5% can be into gold. So that is how broadly you can, frame your overall allocation.
Fair enough. So I think you've got a lesson on financial planning as well, guys, from
Yes.
Vivek in this session. On gold especially, I think how do you navigate this? Because there is government sold bonds, there are gold bees, there is physical gold. What is the best way to approach Vivek?
तो मयूरेश भाई, मेरा हमेशा से माइंडसेट रहा है कि कोई भी एक चीज में सब पैसा मत डालो, राइट? सो इवन व्हेन आई बाय रियल एस्टेट, आई बाय वन रेसिडेंशियल, वन कमर्शियल, एक अंडर कंस्ट्रक्शन, एक प्लॉट और एक रीट्स, राइट? सो दैट अगर कहीं पे कुछ भी फटा तो देन माय एंटायर मनी विल नॉट गो. सो माय पॉइंट इज यस, सी इन टर्म्स ऑफ द रियल पर्पस ऑफ गोल्ड विच इज लिक्विडिटी, के आप आधी रात को भी जाओ, वॉर भी चल रही है, आप रात को किसी को दो और वो आपको कैश दे, दैट इज द रियल पर्पस ऑफ गोल्ड, राइट? आफ्टर लिक्विड कैश, दैट इज द मोस्ट लिक्विड थिंग. तो आपको कुछ अमाउंट का गोल्ड आपके पास आइडियली घर पे रख सकते हो सेफली, तो घर पे भी रखना चाहिए, वर्थ एटलीस्ट 2-3 लाख, सो दैट सम इमरजेंसी इज देयर, लाइक से कोविड, वी सॉ सच सिचुएशन, आप इमीडिएटली कहीं पे भी रिडीम कर सकते हो. Second layer, you can build it like in your lockers and safer places, or in terms of ornaments. And the third layer could be SGB. So SGB technically is the most optimum efficient way to invest into gold.
Correct.
But see, कल अगर आपको पैसा चाहिए, आज मार्केट बंद है, आप उसको सेल नहीं कर सकते हो. Liquidity is an issue. Again, you need to hold it for long term to get a real benefit in terms of taxation and all that. So ideally, I would say do the mix of both, so that some amount is parked in the demat. It gives you some interest. It is low liquid, but even if you want to sell, at least in a reasonable period of time, you can sell. And then you have physical gold, which is much faster in terms of liquidation. But I feel overall, given the interest rates are going down in US, and that might continue for some time, I think these commodity prices, including gold, might see some bit of uptick from here on. So I'm slightly on a positive side, bullish on gold for next 1 or 2 years until the rate cuts keep happening.
परफेक्ट. तो लगता है ज्वेलर के पास जाना पड़ेगा विवेक भाई दिस वीक इटसेल्फ टू हैव एटलीस्ट
हर महीने लेते रहो ना आपको. so again the perspective is के guys, जब भी आपका सैलरी आता है या बिजनेस में से इनकम आता है, दिस एलोकेशन शुड रिमेन कांस्टेंट. तो हर महीने अगर 50,000 आप सेव कर रहे हो, तो जस्ट स्प्लिट इट, और हर महीने आप लेते रहो ये सब अलग अलग एसेट क्लासेस. ऑफ कोर्स रियल एस्टेट में आपको थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, बट देयर आल्सो now we have instruments like REITs where we can actually take 400 रुपए का भी position in real estate.
Perfect. So Madhur, I think Vivek bhai just answered that question on how to own gold and in what proportion, so that liquidity risk probably gets mitigated to a large extent if any emergency is needed at some point of time. So since we are crystal gazing again into 24, Vivek bhai, the other aspect that I wanted to ask is there are a lot of new investors who have come into the market in the last 3 to 6 months specifically. So what is your process in terms of guiding them? I mean, what is the ideal process that these new folks should ideally follow when it comes both from entering the market, expectations from market, and staying put in the market for a long time? And by put, I mean for a long period of time.
Got it. So see, one trend which I have seen is a lot of people who are very new and they have just entered after COVID. They have seen that very huge rally in the market in 2020, like after the COVID period, and 21 में भी काफी follow up moves थे. So the expectation, of course, have been built much higher. मतलब 15% तो किसी को लगता है कि FD type का return, it is too low in terms of market, right? So one is, keep your expectation sane in terms of 20%, 25% kind of compounding over long period of time. Based at that point, आप अगर सीख के थोड़ा और better कर सकते हैं, keep doing it better, but then you should have a realistic expectation to start with. Second is, I am a very hard advocate that new participants should not get into F&O. You should not take leverage, right? अगर leverage लेते हैं, F&O करते हैं, in moments of seconds, I would say, मैंने खुद देखा है मेरी जर्नी से, मुझे पता है क्या होता है. तो within seconds you can actually lose entire capital. That can happen in F&O. Okay, तो जब आप स्टार्ट कर रहे हो ये सब चीज में मत जाइए. इवन इन द स्टॉक्स, अंडरस्टैंड द बिहेवियर एंड द बिजनेस मॉडल ऑफ द कंपनी, कि भाई ये कंपनी क्या करती है, उसका लॉन्ग टर्म आउटलुक क्या है. स्टडी इट प्रॉपरली, स्टडी इट रिटर्न रेशियोज, एंड काफी सारा आजकल लिटरेचर अवेलेबल है. इवन इफ यू सी विलियम ओनील में भी हर 2-3 महीने में वर्कशॉप्स होते हैं. There are a lot of blogs which are there. There are a lot of videos which are available. So just first understand the art of it and then enter. And even if you are doing into cash market, always have your risk management focus first. कि भाई अगर मेरे exits trigger होते हैं, first of all have exit system in place. अगर नहीं है तो ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई स्टॉक गिर रहा है, आप लेते जा रहे हो और वो 80% डाउन है और आपका वो बिगेस्ट साइज ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो हो गया. वो तो बिल्कुल मत करिए. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, फर्स्ट हैव एग्जिट सिस्टम इन प्लेस एंड अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज योर रेसिडुअल रिस्क. अगर सब पोजीशंस मेरी एग्जिट हो जाएगी एंड इफ ऑल माय रिस्क मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम गेट्स ट्रिगर्ड, हाउ मच मैक्सिमम आई लूज इन द मार्केट. इफ यू फोकस ऑन योर डाउनसाइड रिस्क, ऑटोमेटिकली योर अपसाइड गेट्स टेकन केयर ऑफ. अगेन ये मैं बार बार बताता हूँ हर एक फोरम में, बट दैट इज व्हाट इज नीडेड. बिकॉज आजकल क्या हो गया, मतलब पीपल जस्ट सी व्हाट इज हैपनिंग एंड मतलब चीजें बाहर फ्लैश अलग तरीके से होती है एंड पीपल गेट ल्योर्ड इनटू समथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट what they should be doing initially. मतलब if you become pro and if you feel that this is what I want to do and this is the kind of risk I can take, please go for it. But initially, without understanding, don't do that.
Perfect. Makes
Because these
absolute
are all
sense.
double-edged sword.
Absolutely agreed. So it absolutely makes sense. So I think for all new investors out there, I think it's the most sanest advice that you can probably get. And the last 3 and 4 minutes is something that you should play on loop, specifically if you're a new investor into the markets. Absolute golden words that Vivek Bhai has said. The flip side of the argument, Vivek Bhai, is also that people have now got used to superlative returns in the market. Abhi, now the question now becomes that if that kind of returns do not come in, even for a person who is reasonably into the market for say 8 or 10 years, now the expectation built up has happened that markets are going to do phenomenally well and will keep on doing phenomenally well. What is an average expectation of returns that a average investor should have, and very realistic one? If you can have any question around this very basic question that probably comes through.
Yeah. So Mayuresh bhai, generally if we do long-term investing, right, if you are doing in a right way, just avoid unnecessary bad companies and highly cyclical companies and low growth companies. Basically anything, if we pick up more than 15% of growth in a decent scenario, I think 15 to 25% is a very reasonable expectation to have in terms of long-term compounding. If we want to generate more than that, then it needs hard work. And market में हमेशा opportunity आती है. मतलब जब January to March जब consolidation हो रहा था या slightly downtrend भी था, that time also there were few sectors which were emerging and forming the base, and as soon as the market went up, it gave opportunity. Having said that, जब market favorable नहीं होता है, you should have that courage to sit on cash. Right, and as a retail investor, we can do that funds cannot do by nature of their products, right? PMS cannot do because of the nature of their products. But as a retail investor, any one of you can within few seconds go into cash if the market is not favorable and park your money somewhere else in a liquid fund. At least you'll get 8%, 7%, and then when things are favorable, you basically get in. So as far as you don't make big losses or big drawdowns, I think the upsides will automatically get taken care of. That is what, again, I've learned from William O'Neill and Mark Minervini, that small losses is fine, but big drawdown or big losses can take your portfolio to a much backward side, actually.
Oh, absolutely. Point very well explained, Vivek Bhai. And in fact, if you keep on waiting, as William O'Neill has himself sent in his book, if the stock corrects 50%, it has to have a full 100% reversal to just go back to where you bought it, right? So always remember what Vivek Bhai, the point that he's trying to probably drive through, and obviously the learnings that all of us have through either William O'Neill or Mark Minervini, through his through the tweets or through their books itself. The last element that I wanted to speak about, Vivek, before we take some questions from the audience as well, is the mental approach towards the markets. Now, a lot of areas that I see that you practice in all these areas of the market itself, and mental area is also somewhere where you have read about a lot and practiced it as well. In a booming market, everything is fine. When the market falls, और आप जब बोलते हैं कि कैश में बैठना चाहिए, it's all good. But तब तक ड्रॉडाउन हो गया रहता है. whatever it is, 7%, 8%, 12% on wherever your entry point is. Now, the more difficult part is after this drawdown to come back into the market with that same amount of conviction. Or इसलिए, how do you probably sharpen your mental perspective when it comes to markets per se? And generally in life also, whatever is the application.
Got it. Got it. So first thing in terms of keeping that attitude to come back again, एक एलोकेशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है. मतलब अगर आप ओवर एलोकेटेड हो एंड इफ एवरी रुपी फॉल इज अफेक्टिंग द लाइफस्टाइल ऑफ द पर्सन, राइट, दैट इज वेयर द प्रॉब्लम कम्स. मतलब इक्विटी में काफी जो वेटरन इन्वेस्टर वो बोल के गए कि इतना ही पैसा डालो जो अगर आपका जीरो भी हो जाता है तो आपकी लाइफस्टाइल अफेक्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए. सो द प्रॉब्लम कम्स व्हेन वी आर ओवर एलोकेटेड इनटू इक्विटी. दैट इज वन. एंड अनदर थिंग इज the way to think about market, you should think about that you are actually putting money into certain business. कि आप अगर कोई दुकान चालू कर रहा है और उसमें आप पार्टनर बन रहे हो तो थोड़े पैसे आपने डाले, वो वर्कआउट हुआ या नहीं हुआ तो आप कोई और शॉप डालोगे, वहां पे पैसे डालोगे. सो एक्चुअली इफ यू थिंक अबाउट स्टॉक मार्केट एज इन्वेस्टिंग इनटू बिजनेस तो पूरा पर्सपेक्टिव चेंज हो जाता है. एंड अलोंग विद दैट वी नीड टू प्रैक्टिस lot of things which keeps our mind saner, like meditation. You can do deep breathing, connect with other like-minded investors, read lot of books. Those are very very important trait. मतलब learning तो stop होनी नहीं चाहिए, and that sanity should remain all the time. मतलब even in bull market you should not get carried away कि हाँ सब कुछ चल रहा है, मेरा तो 30% allocation था, अब मैं 50% कर देता हूँ. That is also not a right way to do it. And same way, on the other side, when it is going down, लाइक यू माइट फील सब कुछ एफडी में डाल देते, तभी एक्चुअली टाइम होता है कि इक्विटी में डालना है आपको. सो या
Yeah, so I think just to follow up on that, brilliant points again, Vivek bhai. When the markets does go into that phase where you are in a bear phase or जब not everything is rosy, सब शायद correct हो रहा है. And obviously you said you need to practice a lot of your mental toughness as well. But how do you do these study elements in a market which is bad? And what aspects do you study when the market actually goes very, very bad? तो अगर मार्केट खराब हो गया है तो क्या चीजें देखनी चाहिए? Because at some point the market will revive. So how do you utilize that time to study the market, and how do you study the aspects related to the market for the next rally or whatever?
गॉट इट. सो सी बेसिकली मैंने जैसे पोर्टफोलियो मेरा डिजाइन किया है, इट इज 70% कोर एंड 30% लाइक सैटेलाइट. सैटेलाइट इज मोर पोजिशनल, जिसमें आपको फास्ट मूव मिल जाते हैं. कोर इज लाइक कि जिसमें आराम आराम से चीजें मिलती है. सो बाय डिजाइन वन, जनरली द गुड कोर कंपाउंडिंग जो हम क्लासिक कॉफी कैन बोलते हैं, बट माय आइडिया इज कि कैन को थोड़ा थोड़ा खोलते रहना चाहिए कि उसमें कुछ खराब नहीं हो गया कि नहीं. दैट इज हाउ आई डू इट, कि उसमें ग्रोथ चल रहा है, इट इज ऑन ट्रैक एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स. सो आई बेसिकली डू अ चेकलिस्ट कि हर महीने उस पे चेकलिस्ट लगाओ, इवन इफ मार्केट इज बैड, वेदर योर बिजनेस इज एक्चुअली डिटीरियरेटिंग और. काफी बार ये होता है कि ये सब जो अच्छे बिजनेसेस हैं, जब मार्केट खराब होता है, दे गो इनटू अ स्लाइटली गुड कंसोलिडेशन फेज. तो 6-8 महीने तक कुछ भी नहीं करता है. So that time I don't add the position there, and of course if there is a prolonged consolidation even in core stock I exit. But having the tab and conviction about the companies you own during that time कि हाँ ये on track जा रहा है कि नहीं, that is very important. Second, it is very important to track the strength, that whether my company is not falling as much as the indices. Like even in COVID, there were a lot of companies which did not fall as much as Nifty fell, and those were the ones which bounced back very fast, and they gave much higher returns. So that stability in terms of strength also is very much important. And third is try to wait for the newer basis to find. And it is not easy if particularly we are a full-time investor. So that is why even in my circle and my community I keep saying that एक market के अलावा भी एक कुछ hobby रखो, कुछ extra काम रखो. If you are good at something, consulting करो, ताकि you don't become hyperactive in the market and you basically crave for activity even when there is a downtrend or a consolidation phase. क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम यही है, इवन लॉट ऑफ टेक्निकल एनालिस्ट्स हैव सेड कि जब आप ट्रेंड फॉलोइंग सिस्टम फॉलो करते हो, जब ट्रेंड होता है तब वो बढ़िया चलती है, बट जब ट्रेंड आपके फेवर में नहीं होता है तब most of the traders and investors want to push and enforce that system into the markets. And then we say कि यार इसमें तो stop loss दोनों side विपशो में लग रहा है and it is not working out. So it is very important to have something else to also do along with the markets, and that becomes very critical in that phase. तो मेरा मानना वो है कि कुछ alternate कुछ hobbies या occupation रखो जिससे आपको वहां पे भी mind divert रहे.
Brilliant, brilliant. So कुछ तो passion अपना follow करना चाहिए.
Follow करना
Follow your passion as something outside the markets as well. If you are a full time investor, अगर आप already कुछ और कर रहे हैं और invest कर रहे हैं, तो you have to understand market cycles to a certain extent. You mentioned a few books, Vivek bhai. Any particular books apart from the one that obviously you have authored that is a good read for new investors, existing investors?
मैं पूरा लिस्ट एक लिंक भेज देता हूँ. So I am very ardent reader, but lot of
Yeah,
things
yeah.
I keep reading. So मैं एक
How many hours do you read in a day, Vivek bhai, for the users? So
मतलब around 2-3 hours I try to do
daily.
something on the learning side, right?
Wow.
Different things. I'll just share the link, which
Sure.
is there are a lot of books. To name a few, of course, I like Coffee Can Investing, Technical Analysis of Stock Trends by John Maggie. Then there is a very beautiful book. If you want to think in terms of probability and position sizing, it is called
Yeah.
Thinking in Bets. Then there is a book by John Murphy, जो classic अपना
Yeah.
technical analysis of financial
Yeah.
markets है. Then Trade Like a Stock Market Wizard. Then Gautam Bhai की book है Joys of Compounding.
Compounding.
And Nicholas Darwas की है How I Made 2 million in Stock Market. Then Pat Dorsey की है 5 Rules for Successful Investing, stock investing. Then there is a very beautiful book on risk management which is called Zurich Axioms. It is by Gunther Max. So that talks about how Swiss people actually manage their risk and stay sane in their operations. वो बहुत ही insightful book है, बहुत ही छोटी पतली सी book है, but it is very very powerful. And then there is a powerful book by Adrian Slowski that is called Value Migration, and that एक ये thought process मुझे बहुत ही help किया है. Basically, you just think about where the value is migrating, right? So basically, where there is a big sector, there is huge amount of unorganized players, and there are few stronger players which hold only small market share, and every year they are taking market share from this unorganized player, just like how
Yeah.
Asian Paints played in the paints industry. There are a lot of such sectors in India. Even we discuss about wiring industry, piping industry, all these sectors have these characteristics. Even these laminate industry, all these are very very powerful trend that is going in terms of value migration. So if we just focus on that part कि जो भी सेक्टर 10 से 12% ग्रो कर रहा है एज ए सेक्टर, और फिर उसमें कोई स्ट्रांग प्लेयर है जिसको अनऑर्गेनाइज से ऑर्गेनाइज प्लेयर्स को बेनिफिट मिल रहा है, तो आपका सेक्टर मतलब आपका रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ अराउंड 14-15% हो जाएगा. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द underlying leverage and the margin expansion, your overall earnings growth will become 20 to 25%. तो ऐसी ही अगर कंपनीज के आप पोर्टफोलियो बनाते हो, you are much better off than the low growth companies. It is more longevity kind of portfolio and also good growth compounding for a long period of time.
Wow, those were brilliant insights, Vivek bhai. So I hope you guys have noted what Vivek bhai had to say. And all the books he mentioned, it is there on the link. So if you click the link, you will get most of the books that Vivek bhai just spoke about. And in fact, this was one question which got missed out, Vivek bhai, on value migration, and that you picked up very beautifully and in a terse fashion explained that. We'll just pause for a minute, Vivek bhai. We will just take 5 more minutes in terms of certain questions. We already exceeded our time. We are already 1 or 10 minutes into the seminar. So, folks, if you've got some quick questions, avoid stock-specific questions at this juncture. But if you've got any questions related to a sector or certain thesis or logic that Vivek bhai has, which he has put forth, that would be brilliant. So we'll just pause Vivek bhai for 30 seconds to pick up these questions, and we will take it from here. Okay, so we'll start taking the questions. Prashant Belur, Vivek has a question. How do we identify and ride multibaggers? We are kicked out as it breaks 50 MA, but we will exit at that time. After that, it multiples 2x to 3x. How do you increase the conviction for that?
Perfect. So see, guys, nobody will know when somebody enters whether it will become 2x or 3x. Even BSc, which I picked up, I never knew कि in a short time it will go so far, right? So I would have just thought कि भाई इसमें 20-25% का move मिल जाए and I'll probably be happy. So the point is you play on probability all the time, right? So first, so I'll give you a couple of checks which you need to find for a potential multi-bagger, having said that it might fully work or it might not work, right? So first, always check for sector tailwind, whether that sector has good tailwind or not. Because अगर आपका sector tailwind नहीं है, if there is a lot of headwind in the industry, the probability of that company going up will be much lower. Second, check for the demand, right? Always look for demand, whether the base is getting formed, and within the base also on the uptick, whether your volume is higher, and your downtick, the volume is getting compressed. That is the second thing which you should be checking up. Third is how strong is the pattern, whether it is forming a cup and handle and overall the pattern is looking good. Fourth, see the overall broader indices, how they are performing. Like if say mid cap index itself is forming a new high and your sector is also forming a new high, the probability is much higher that your stock will most likely move up. Otherwise, if the sector, if the market itself is not favorable, market may agar downtrend hai, even if your sector is very strong, at best you will get a pullback or a consolidation. You will not get like a good follow-up move. So basically the idea is keep layering your probabilities, then check what are the fundamental triggers, whether my fundamental triggers are strong enough, whether the valuation has some kind of re-rating potential or not. So when all the ticks start happening, your probability is actually increasing. Once you are sure that okay, within my 10 15 watch list companies, these are the top 4 5 companies where the probability of moving up is higher, you basically start betting on it with a small position sizing. So the next layer of cushion which we are doing is position sizing.
Yeah.
So I'll just show you, in fact, one of the latest screen which I have done so that you will get an idea. Okay, so this I do basically every single week, right? It's like my homework for every time. So what I do is I categorize my companies into 4 buckets. One is where weekly bases are getting formed. So I list down all the companies where weekly bases are there. The second list is where the strength continues, right? Where position might have got built, but then new position, the risk reward might not be favorable. And the third list which I make is where my risk reward is favorable. So say for example, I'll give one of the companies which I just researched on 23rd December, right? So say for example, one of these companies, Surya Roshni, I saw that, okay, daily chart, it was forming a base and it was trying to break out. Even when it is trying to build the base, you can see that during the base formation itself, the volume has started picking up. So this is slightly higher rank की वो positive आपको sign दिखा रहा है that there is higher probability of breaking out. Then on weekly also it gave me the confirmation there is base on base, and whenever this low volume was there, the fall was there, the volume was much lower, and otherwise whenever there was a up move, the volume was much higher. And same way, it is coming from the sector where it has got lot of tailwinds. On the top of it, same way I see the indexes. So if my CNX mid cap is strong or not, so I'll just see whether my CNX mid cap is into trending zone. If it is A, B, or C and not in red, I keep riding it and try to screen the stocks underlying. That is how you see the probability. And last but not the least, right, which you should always see, and where I've ruled out these stocks, right? So say for example, I'll take a live example so that you guys understand. Say for example, Cyient or Birlasoft, say for example. Okay, so Birlasoft, it has already given a base breakout at 600 rupees. Now my nearest support is at 600 rupees. If I want to trail exit, there are two ways. I can put a fixed stop loss, a percentage stop loss, or I can put a stop loss below this support zone. Now, if we measure this, my stock is almost 20% farther from the support zone. So this is not my good risk reward, because on an average in Indian stock market, like in US, there is a study and Mark Minervini has also published that in his book. The average moves are 16 to 70%. And that is where he has done 1:2 risk, 2 risk reward, 8% fixed stop loss and 16 to 17% on a 2 times risk reward base. In India, it is around 25 to 27%. So if my trailing stop loss itself is like 20%, my risk reward is not favorable because it is almost like 1.2 times risk reward. So that is like the final check you should do. So once you do all these ranking, then you pick up your selective stocks, and then whichever moves you keep averaging up. And what will happen is out of 10 stocks, 2, 3 might not perform. They will still hit your exit. 2, 3 might perform 20, 25% and go down again or trigger your exit. And 1 or 2 will actually become like a 2x and 3x. As far as you keep allocating more and more to them, and as far as you take small losses and get out of others, you will be fine, right? And you will still miss out a lot of 2, 3x, and you might have still that regret, because market is a regret machine, and all the time there's something better that is going on. But as far as you pick up 1 out of 10 also, which is becoming 2x with a reasonable allocation, you should be good. And having said that, even if your exit gets triggered and all the checks again become positive, you should re-enter that stock. Okay, you should keep it in watch list and again re-enter. There have been so many stocks where during its 10x journey, I might have entered and exit 3 to 4 times, and I might have got a reasonable 4, 5x in that journey. And that is fine. You don't need to like get the entire return of the life. If you are able to cut a small percentage return also in between, that is perfectly fine.
वेरी वेल सेड विवेक सर, विवेक भाई। तो यही बात पूछनी थी मुझे, एंड दिस इज व्हाट प्रिसाइसली इवन ओनील एंड मार्क मिनर्विनी हैव सेड इन देयर बुक्स, इफ यू गेट stopped out for whatever reason, as Vivek bhai just put out, and if there is a chance of re-entry, if everything is fine, don't get scared कि वो स्टॉक ने मुझे स्टॉप आउट किया तो वापस क्यों वो स्टॉक में घुसना है। वो एक साइकोलॉजिकल फियर आ जाता है। बट
हाँ, मतलब इट्स लाइक इस मैं बहुत एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ ना, कार का एग्जांपल, कि सपोज आप हाईवे पे जा रहे हो, आप मर्सिडीज बैठे हो और आपकी गाड़ी खराब हो गई है, राइट? तो व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट लॉजिकल कंक्लूजन कि यार कार को रखो, इसको फोन करो, किसी मैकेनिक को बुलाओ, ऑटो मिल रही है उसमें तुरंत बैठ जाओ, क्योंकि आपको तो कंपाउंडिंग करना है ना, आपको तो फास्टेस्ट वे में पहुंचना है वहां पे। अब आप ऑटो में बैठे हो, आधे घंटे आगे पहुंच गए हो और आपका ड्राइवर का कॉल आता है, साहब गाड़ी ठीक हो गई है, मैं 15 मिनट में वहां पहुंच जाता हूँ। तो आप उसको बुला लेते हो एंड यू चेंज अगेन, राइट? एंड यू अगेन सिट इनटू योर मर्सिडीज एंड राइट। तो एग्जैक्टली सेम थिंग करना।
Very well put. Very well put, Vivek bhai. I think quick 2, 3 questions before we cut the session, because I know you've got some commitments as well. There were some specific questions on some themes. So Ibrahim Sharif has a question on the battery theme. And if you want to comment, Vivek bhai, not a compulsion, on Sona BLW.
नहीं, मैं आई थिंक अगेन इन टर्म्स ऑफ पैटर्न इट इज मोर लाइक अ राउंडिंग पैटर्न इट इज फॉर्मिंग, बट इट इज अगेन इन द लो बेस। मैंने काफी टाइम पहले देखा था, एक बार जस्ट देख लेता हूँ। बाय द वे, आई एम नॉट होल्डिंग द पोजीशन हियर एंड नॉट अ रिकमेंडेशन, बट यस इट इज again like I'll just show the chart just to give a perspective of the basing pattern which we are discussing. This is a classic example where the stage 4 got completed. It started building the base, but then if you see the buying volume was not that conducive, and a lot of wicks were there, and it is just consolidating. So this shows weakness. Abhi bhi yahan pe buyer demand nahi hai. So I think we should wait for a very good strong base to form and then think about it. But again, not a recommendation. We are not holding it or not recommended to our client. But this is the thought process, how you should think about this companies. But there are a lot of, actually in this kind of market condition, आपको काफी सारे companies मिल जाएंगे जो at least यहाँ से 70-80% बेस कंप्लीट किए हैं, और या फिर ऑलमोस्ट बिफोर द ब्रेकआउट है। दैट इज द स्पेस राइट नाउ यू शुड बी इन, बिकॉज अभी के मार्केट में अगर कोई एकदम नीचे है, अनलेस द सेक्टर इज टर्निंग अराउंड लाइक डायग्नोस्टिक और केमिकल्स, if it is a sector which has already run up and if that stock is still a laggard, which means it is very weak in that particular sector. तो अभी वो वीकनेस को हाथ लगाने का पॉइंट नहीं है, बिकॉज नाउ you never know when the party gets over.
Perfect. एक सवाल on the sector was again on tire stocks. So since you were on the charts, any particular view on any particular tire stocks or the sector as a whole?
I think tire stocks broadly consolidation से बाहर आ रहे थे. I think I saw TVS Sri Chakra some time back, which was showing good strength. But apart from that, I'm not tracking many of other stocks. So this actually gave a breakout, and मेरे chart पे सब analysis भी किया हुआ है. So it formed a good base. But only problem here was there was not too much of convincing volume again. It was very meager volume. Although it is better, but not so good as we want to generally see. Again, we don't have any position here, but इसमें थोड़ा सा strength था actually, at least. This
Or
is
Vivek, what about
not.
JK and Apollo? If
I
volumes
think
are a
JK
little bit of a
also was
problem.
doing good. Yeah, JK was also doing good. That also came in my radar. Actually, yeah, JK is much better. I think it is more like a keep riding kind of stock rather than a fresh entry. Again, इसमें मेरे lines सब draw हुए हैं. तो यहाँ पे I think it was a good point to enter around 206. But now we should wait for a tightness and then we can think about it. Again, we don't have any position here in JK Tire as well.
Perfect. I mean, your disclaimers are well taken. One last question, because you are always touching 6 o'clock. I think you have to go. Is one space on the textile space? Yeah, the textile space and the general insurance. Yeah, general insurance, जबरदस्त भाग रहे थे. GIC, RE,
Yeah,
and all
so
that.
general insurance are doing good. And again, some of these are more like a PSU kind of stocks only. So public sector enterprises here, I think NIC, which was there, NICL, and one more I think was running up. So that
GIC, RE was running big time.
GIC,
एक
RE,
circuit
and
लगाया और
yeah, and there was one more. I think both were moving in tandem. But yeah, I think it is a same view like how we discussed broadly that slightly stretched in terms of valuation, be more like a short-term positional trend follower in that, but long-term might not be that good risk reward.
Perfect. So guys, I think we've already exceeded our time. Vivek Bhai has a higher commitment at 6. I'll not keep him overly extended with us. But through the session, I think the key takeaways were what Vivek Bhai beautifully explained in terms of both the expectations in terms of sector rotations. He discussed a few sectors which you should keep on your radar. I hope you guys have noted it down. He explained it very beautifully in terms of how do you enter and how do you position size your entries as well. He explained with that concept, and he was very, very pertinently insisting on risk management as a tool. And that is what great traders and great investors do. Keep a close eye on how risk management practices are followed and implemented also. He touched base upon a lot of other asset classes as well, including gold, including commodities. He gave you a 3-minute masterclass on financial planning, which is which was quite beautiful is what I would say. A 3-minute masterclass is not anywhere you'll find. So if you go into the loop again, any new investor, you please go through that. He gave you practical examples on certain key sectors. He's given you some practical examples on certain stocks. He discussed the Shaktiman indicator with you. He discussed a lot of the key sectors and how do you view sectors from a tailwind perspective. What are the key filters that he uses at Markets with India? How does he view pivot points? How does he view the bases, base on base structures? Where does he find strength? And therefore, I think it was an hour and 15 minutes of time well spent, at least for me. I hope you guys had a wonderful experience and a lot of learnings. I hope you implement these learnings that Vivek has put forth. And therefore, from all of you and from Markets with India as well, we thank Vivek Bhai for the time he's given us. Thank you, Vivek Bhai, for the time given to us. It was
Always
a pleasure speaking, interacting, listening to you. Till we meet again, have a great 2024 with full of health, wealth, prosperity. And to all you guys as well, have a great 2024 full of good health, wealth, peace, and prosperity. Till we meet again, Vivek Bhai, and all of you, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayuresh bhai, and it is always pleasure. And जो Market Smith कर रहा है and what we have been learning from William O'Neill and likes of Mark Minervini, forever indebted to the platform and to the community. So always happy to share whatever we can share with the fellow investors. Thank you so much again for having me here. And guys, thank you so much for being till the end and listening to me. It's always a pleasure. Last week of the year में सब लोग को ढूंढना मुश्किल होता है, but you are here and learning with us. So that is really, really precious for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vivek Bhai, and your humbleness sees it all. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Vivek. Till we meet again.